Okay, so now we're shifting gears to exponential functions. So remember in college algebra that E is 2.718. So it's oftentimes known as Euler's number, and it's our exponential base that we are going to use in this section. So there's two ways to get this E on your calculator. The first way is that you can hit the second division button and that will give you just the E. And then the second way is that you can hit the second ln button, which gives you E raised to a power. So those are the two ways that you can find the E button on the calculator. Again, hitting the second button followed by the division button will give you E, or you can hit the second button followed by the natural log, and that will give you E raised to a power. So then you would plug in the power, maybe it's 2 or what have you, and then that would give you your decimal approximation. So in college algebra, the way that it was presented was that these exponentials were important for compound interest questions. Now, because they are so important in the business calculus and just business applications, we're going to revisit that idea of compound interest. So remember in college algebra, there were two formulas that were given to us here. And really to determine which formula to use, it was all about, do you see the word continuous? So if you saw the word continuous, then you would use the PERT formula. And if you didn't have the word continuous, then you would use this more involved formula, P times 1 plus R over n to the nt. So you will need these formulas for reference on your test on the final exam. It will be given embedded in the question. So I want to just be very clear, you don't necessarily have to memorize these formulas, but just as a quick reminder about the formulas, you do need to know when you see this formula what the variables mean. So that's very important. So just to reiterate, I will give you the formulas if I choose to give you this type of question on the test, but what I won't give you is what each of these little variables represent. So just as a reminder, A represents the end amount. The reason why they call it A is because it really represents the accumulated amount. Meanwhile, our P is the principal, and the principal is our beginning amount. And then the T, of course, is time. And then we have our interest rate. Our interest rate is going to be represented by R. Keep in mind that this interest rate always needs to be represented as a decimal. So for a quick example of this, if you have a 5% interest rate, you're not going to say that R is 5. You would say that R is equal to 0.05. Remember, you just simply move the decimal 2 places to the left. 2 places to the left to convert, to the right to convert, to the left. Sorry, I have a student joining office hours, to move the decimal to the left, and then that will give you your rate. And then meanwhile, your N is the number of times that you compounded the money. So the number of times compounding the money per year. One thing to just mention again, all of these variables are assuming R, T, and N are assuming that this is in years. So you're not doing days or months or anything like that. It's represented in years. And again, to determine which formula to use, we're really going to refer to that word continuous. So if you see the word continuous, then you use the PERT formula, and then everything else is not going to involve the PERT formula. One thing that I just want to mention really quickly, when you are typing in the PERT formula in on your calculator, it's helpful to remember that all of the RT needs to be in parentheses to get all of that as the exponent. So sometimes I'll remember the PERT formula with those parentheses embedded already, because that will help me when I need to put this in on my calculator.